Hello people of the internet, welcome and welcome back to the channel. If you have any of the Sony APSC cameras and if you are looking to buy a wide-angle lens, you probably are looking into Sony 10-20mm F4 G, or if you want to buy something brighter and cheaper zoom lens, Sigma 10-18mm or Tamron 11-20mm f2.8 lenses. But if you have enough money to spend on brighter and native Sony lenses, you have two very good options in the range between 10-20mm. They are the 11mm f1.8 lens and 15mm f1.4 G lens. They are brighter than the other options in the list and they deliver for the price you pay for. I see people often complain about the extra cash you pay for these lenses, but fortunately in this particular case it is justified. I love and have both of them and I think they solve very different purposes. In this video I will try to bring out everything you need to know about these two lenses using the Sony a6700 camera. Before we get into the video, here is a blind test. Now both of these clips are shot using the Sony a6700 and with either of 11mm f1.8 lens or 15mm f1.4 lens at f1.8, f2.8, f4 and f8. I want you to guess which lens is A and which lens is B. I will reveal the results in a bit. Let's see some similarities and differences in the things you can see and feel. The 11mm lens feels a bit plasticky with smooth texture, while the 15mm lens feels like it is made of durable plastic with texture and the G logo on it. Although you can handle both of them with confidence, I already started to see some micro dents on my 11mm f1.8 lens. Physically, they are very close. The 15mm lens is a bit taller than the 11mm lens with an additional aperture ring. They both have the focus ring and the focus ring feels the same. They both have custom button on the lens which is set to autofocus lock by default. It is kind of hard to reach it with my giant hands, especially with the camera in the cage. Both have AF/MF toggle switch as well. On the topic of manual focus, you get the natural linear manual focus response even though it is electronically coupled. It is pretty smooth and accurate in my experience. For close-up shots, you can go as close as 12 cm from the sensor with the 11mm lens giving you a 0.2x magnification, and with the 15mm f1.4 lens you can go as close as 17 cm resulting in a 0.15 magnification. More on the close-up performance later in this video. Since the 15mm f1.4 lens has an aperture ring, it has a clicky to declicky to clicky toggle switch as well. The aperture ring can turn to automatic, which enables in-camera aperture changes, which is really helpful when you place a camera on a tripod. Both have 55mm filter thread, and that's some good news. I use a step-up ring to use 67mm filters so that I don't get any corner vignetting from the cheap filters. By the way, I'm using the magnetic filter from K&F Concept, which is reasonably good in my opinion. I'm not sponsored by this company, but I just happen to have a lot of these in all sizes for lenses I have used in the past. Both these lenses are weather sealed. The level of weather sealing might be different between both these lenses. I was able to confidently use the 11mm f1.8 on a beach side, so that's something to say about it. The 11mm is as light as 181 grams while the 15mm weighs about 219 grams. You will not feel much of a difference in handling them with just 38 grams of difference. Okay, so far the similarities are that they are small, light, and they have custom button on them and an autofocus manual focus toggle switch, and they are both weather sealed to some extent. For the differences, the 15mm f1.4 G lens has a textured body versus the smooth body on the 11mm f1.8. There is an aperture ring on the 15mm f1.4 G lens and a switch to make it clicky or smooth. The 15mm f1.4 G lens is also a tad bit longer and 38 grams heavier. And finally, the most obvious difference is the focal length. I was in the same shoes as you, torn between so many good options to choose from. These two lenses solve very different purposes. I use the 11mm for wide-angle time-lapse videos and it works fantastic. I use the 15mm focal length for talking head videos and the results are great. Given the clear image zoom, the 11mm of 16.5mm full-frame equivalent becomes about 24mm lens with the 1.5x zoom, and the 15mm of 22.5mm full-frame equivalent becomes 33.75 full-frame equivalent, so having these two lenses covers 16 to 35mm full-frame equivalent for video purposes. Now let's talk about the stuff you don't see on the lens but you will find from the lenses. Regarding the autofocus, there are two linear autofocus motors in both these lenses. Autofocus is a non-issue in both these lenses. You will see more examples of how quick, snappy and accurate autofocus is in this video. Focus breathing is minimal in both these lenses. These are truly made for video purposes. Even with the focus breathing compensation off, these lenses perform really well when it comes to focus breathing. We understand that most lenses have very good center sharpness, and so we are going to focus on the corner sharpness comparison. But before that, let's take a moment to appreciate the fact that the 15mm f1.4 lens is sharp corners to corners even at f1.4. On the left we have the image from 11mm f1.8 lens, and on the right we have the image from 15mm f1.4 lens. Overall, the 15mm f1.4 lens is sharper than the 11mm in any comparison criteria. Here, comparing the images shot at f1.8, 11mm is a mush in the corners, while you can clearly see the windowsill's definition on the 15mm image. The same is the case throughout the aperture ranges f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, f11, and the images start to become soft from f11. The lenses seem to have maximum sharpness at f5.6. If you want to see them for yourself, the link for these sample images are down in the description below. Close focus sharpness is sharp in both these cameras, no doubt about it. But since the depth of field of f1.4 for the 15mm f1.4 lens is extremely narrow, it might be challenging to nail the focus. Obviously, we are seeing a lot of fringing when shot wide open on both these cameras, but at f4 they become clean. When shooting landscapes with the lens correction turned on, you won't notice the distortions. But when the profile corrections are turned off, the distortions become apparent, and I think it is not too distracting. It is more evident when you are shooting something not too far away. As you can see here, the images are totally bulging at the center. This is the kind of flare you get shooting directly at the light source. Both are poor performance in this regard, but you can use them for your styling purposes. So what's the verdict? Considering you just want one lens to keep with you that is wide enough to use in most situations, I would pay the price and go with the 15mm f1.4 lens, as this gives me brighter apertures and practical focal lengths in most situations for photos and videos. But if you are already having anything in the standard focal length and you need an ultra-wide focal length lens, then the 11mm f1.8 is a good option to consider. I have both these lenses and I'm happy to use them as and when I need them. Well, I'm not talking about Sigma or Tamron lenses because I don't have them and they are not as wide as these two lenses. That's it for the video, guys. Make the right decision on choosing the right lens for the purpose. While you're at it, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more such videos. Peace.